All right, let's move on to the first exercise today. This is going to be an exercise that combines some of those tips to show you how to improve performance. There's an existing workspace which analyzes the amount of art in each city park. And we're going to carry out a code review to check and see if that workspace is efficient and see if there's anything we can do to improve performance. So let me go over and have a look at the workspace. You will recognize it from earlier this week. It is this similar to the one we used previously, which had the ortho photos that were clipped by neighborhood. But this one also does a bit more because it's dealing with that public art data. So you can see it's a bit more, there's a bit more going on than there was in the previous time we had a look at this workspace. But the overall idea is the same. We're reading in some ortho photos, which we're going to use for a background imagery. And then we are reading in some parks, and we'll be writing out the data about the public art in the parks. So let's have a look and see if we can come up with some performance improvements here. Okay, just a moment. Let me help Monica here. Okay, so let's have a look at our reader methodology first. So the first reader we have here is for public art. Then we have the parks reader. We're going to need both the public art and the parks for this, all of those features. There's no way we can filter on read for those. We also have these Vancouver neighborhoods. We might not need all of these, right? If there's more neighborhoods than the spatial boundaries we have for the other data sets, then maybe we could drop some, but we'll have to have a look and see. And if you did run actually the public art data, you would see that they fall pretty much exactly in these neighborhoods. I think they've already been clipped, so we can't really benefit from filtering anything out there. And then ortho photos, those might be more than we need. I guess we could just run the workspace and have a look, couldn't we? We don't really need to guess. The previous time we looked at this workspace, in fact, we saw that we were getting some performance improvements using the feature reader to only read ortho photos that overlap with the neighborhoods. And so, in fact, we can try to configure that again. One thing I should check is, are we reading this? Okay, I'm going to stop this immediately. I need to update this. This is using web paths URLs for the imagery, which isn't ideal. This will make the workspace take a lot longer to run. So I'm going to change this. Instead, you can do this as well when you work on it if you'd like. Instead of using that URL, I'm just going to go to the ortho photos folder on the C drive and select all of them. That will be quite a bit faster. The parks is also online. Might as well change that as well. This is also available on the C drive. It's just under data parks, and it's parks.tab. So let me try with that change. That should be a little faster. So we'll have a look and see if the ortho photo, basically bounding box, boundaries, is bigger than the neighborhoods, then we could potentially see some benefits by reducing the amount of imagery we're reading. Still is taking a little while. Let's see, how are we doing here? I probably should have just ran the readers. Anyway, I don't want to waste too much time. You can inspect these and you'll see that the ortho photos do, in fact, exceed the boundaries of the neighborhoods. So let's do what we did in the previous workspaces here, and let's use a feature reader. Okay, looks like this is finished. We'll just have a quick look. I'm holding down Control to click the ortho photo cache so I can add it to my visual preview window, and you can see based on the size of these tiles, there are some extra images. It's actually a little hard to see the neighborhood boundaries here, but you can kind of, if you click around, you can see there are some extra imagery, images. So let's add a feature reader here. And we'll delete the orthophotos reader. We'll also delete, reader feature type, and we'll say yes to delete the reader. Let's add a feature reader. We'll send the reprojector over here. And then we'll configure this to read the imagery. Again, I'd recommend using the local files here. And we'll add a spatial filter for intersects. I guess we could actually try the clip to initiator envelope. I haven't tried that in this exercise yet. If you want to give it a shot, go for it. I'm going to not, just in case it has any unforeseen impacts. Now, to save some time as well here, we actually learned this yesterday. We need a dissolver here as well. Because remember, if we have all of the neighborhood features going in, it will end up reading some photos more than once. Saito filed instead of wildcard. No, it shouldn't matter for performance, I don't believe. I was just in the habit of selecting all the files. Okay, so let's run that now. And we would see some performance improvements here like we saw yesterday, because we're using the feature reader. We're only reading the images we actually need that overlap the neighborhoods. Now the next thing to think about is writer order. Could we benefit from changing the order of the writers? So currently, the Excel file, which is an the Excel file for neighborhoods, is actually being written first. It's first in the order here. And so we can probably guess, without really even looking at it, the GeoTIFF is very likely to be using more information, more data when it's writing, because this is writing imagery versus writing a spreadsheet. So even if it was quite a big spreadsheet and small imagery, there's a good chance the imagery would be more volume, data volume. So we should change the order here. So I'm going to click and drag the GeoTIFF to move it above neighborhoods in the navigator, which sometimes on Strigo, it's a bit picky about where you actually drag it. There we go. So training now, GeoTIFF writer is above the neighborhoods writer. That should offer some improvements. Another option we might consider for writing is this, the idea of the data set being deleted and recreated, or just emptied of data. It might be a little bit quicker to empty the sheets rather than creating a new spreadsheet from scratch. In this case, I doubt it really matters, because this is quite a small table and it's a single sheet. But if you had bigger data, this could become an issue. So you can optionally, if you'd like, you can, right now this is set to overwrite the Excel file every time it writes. But what you could do is change overwrite existing file to no, which is actually the default. And then you can change in the drop truncate section of the writer feature type. You could say truncate existing sheet / name range and set that to yes. Probably won't make a big difference in this performance of this workspace, but you could see bigger improvements in a larger data set. And it would be similar considerations if you're working with databases, thinking about the index. Final. Nope. Another thing we can do in this workspace to get some improvements is upgrade our transformers. You see there's actually several that are out of date in this workspace. So what I would recommend is right-clicking each and saying upgrade. If you'd like to create a backup, you can. You can view the difference in parameters. And if you'd like, click show changes to see the change log. Although I think okay, good, that's working now. Yeah. So probably no performance improvements on this one. These both sound more like sort of ease of use and GUI changes, but still worth having a look and upgrading. And so you can go ahead and do that for all of these. I'm going to be a little sloppy and just right click and upgrade all, which you can do if you'd like to try out that new feature. But it's probably worth practicing that to see the differences. The tester in this case is actually being updated to use bulk mode. It was an old version of a tester. So this would be one case where you should have a look and say, am I reliant on the feature order of the tester at all? This workspace is not, so that's fine, but that would be one thing to check for. Let's also have a look at the transformation step. Can we be more efficient about how we're doing the transformation? This prepare data for Excel writer is doing a few things: sorting, removing duplicates, removing attributes, renaming. What we probably want to do is actually do the sort later in this bookmark. That in this case is the action of filter remove action. And you can see we're doing some removing after we're doing the sorter. And these three transformers are not reliant on the sort order at all. And so why don't we move the sorter? I'll cut it and I'll put it last before writing. Oh, of course, I shouldn't cut on Strigo. I forget because, well, I think I can do it this way, right? Is that correct? No. Yeah, Strigo cut and paste is a bit funny. So I actually should just manually change the ports. Normally, you could just cut and paste, but oh, I think this came out of the passport. I did not pay attention. So now the sorting, which, like I mentioned earlier, is a bit of an expensive procedure, can be done afterwards. One note is that it doesn't actually have one of its sorting attributes available anymore. And that's because it renamed it to artworks, the attribute renamer. So it's still there. We just have to change what it's referring to because it was renamed. Another thing to consider, can we filter out any data earlier? Sorry, there's a question about the sort is required if you want to control what features get filtered out by the duplicate filter, though, right? It could be. The input is ordered attribute. Yes, it could have an impact because of the input is ordered attribute. However, because this input right now is not ordered by park name, again, it's that whole thing of artificially sorting probably won't be faster than just doing the filter first. So it's actually better in this case for this blocking transformer to block and to remove filter out features than it would be to sort. I think you could benchmark it. Maybe it would be faster, but I would suspect generally filtering before you do something like sorting is going to be better, even in this case with a blocking transformer. So yeah, can we filter things earlier? We have a duplicate filter and we have a tester. Can we move these earlier? If you look in here, you should be able to figure out if that's the case, and that will actually be one of the questions for the quiz. So have a look at the tester, see how it's working, and see if you're able to move it earlier. We also have attribute remover and renamer relatively late in the workspace. Could we move those? The renamer, no, because it's reliant on the overlaps attribute. But the remover, we probably could actually put earlier. You have a look at what it's removing. Latitude and longitude. And additionally, there are some extra attributes that aren't being written out. So if you look here, for example, we have quite a few attributes that are not required on writing. And I don't recall, what do we have here? Yeah, we have some here as well. Let me move this down so I can see it a bit better. So you can see there are these yellow ones essentially are still on the features, but they are not being written out. And so you can get rid of those. The easiest thing to do would actually be to go up and try to remove them right at the start. Try to remove all of these yellow features using attribute removers. In this case, probably the easiest thing to do is put them all in, and then if anything breaks, you can not remove that attribute. That can be kind of faster than probably actually trying to figure out all of the places where attributes are being used. You can just kind of greedily remove as many of these as you can upstream. And then if that breaks anything, decide not to remove that. Maybe then if you want, you could follow that downstream and see if there's somewhere you can remove it a little later after it's used. It's generally easier to do that while you build the workspace than afterwards. But yeah, when you do this exercise, go ahead and add some attribute removers to try to get rid of these excess attributes. You'll be able to figure out which ones are required by the workspace and which ones are completely extraneous. There are also some transformer performance parameters you can have a look at. So the clipper has the, whoops, sorry, that's not the right one. Clipper has the multiple clippers and clippers arrive first options. Should have a look at those and see if you're able to change those. And the point on area overlayer has an areas first option. That's another one you should have a look at when you're doing the exercise. See if you're able to change those. I will point out, if you change areas first to yes for the point on area overlayer and then run it, you'll actually see that the area features get rejected. So that kind of is, and that's because they don't arrive first. So that is a good thing to know, is that the transformer is pretty smart. If you try to lie to it and tell it that the areas are going to arrive first, it will just reject those. And so this fails basically because there's no area features continuing on. Could we fix that? Well, what features are the area features in this transformer? They're the parks. Parks are currently being read after public art. So you can see the public art is going to go across here. Points will arrive first. This is a blocking transformer. So public art will stop reading. Next, we'll read parks. Parks will read and come, and then the areas will arrive second. So if we change the order here, so we read parks first, and then we run this, areas first will, oh, wait, what? Maybe my feature caching might have, yeah, I think my feature caching might have confused it there. Let's see if I rerun. Sometimes feature caching and read or write order can get a little funky. So I think I had to rerun that. Let's see if that fixed it. Yeah, it did. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Maybe I should add a note about that actually. That can cause some issues sometimes with feature order and timing. And so rerun entire workspace is usually a good bet if you are seeing some behavior like that where I didn't expect those areas to be rejected. Rerunning fixed it. So parks were read first, areas did arrive first, then the points came over. And so we were able to use areas first there. Good question. Is attribute manager slower than remover? So there's actually a whole blog post where someone did some tests on this. Under the hood, it's using very similar technology. It's just the attribute manager can do more. Our preference on the training team actually is to encourage people to use these specific attribute transformers, just even outside of the realm of performance, just because it's a little clearer on the canvas if only a single thing is being done. However, you could, combine the remover renamer there into a manager. And the, if I recall correctly, I can link the blog post. If I recall correctly, the finding of the blog post was, if you are doing a lot of different operations on a lot of attributes, then the attribute manager can be faster. But it is generally quicker to use the single function attribute transformers if you're just doing that. So if you're just doing renaming, it is usually quicker to just use an attribute renamer. If you have to like rename, move, calculate values, remove attributes, all of that at once, the manager will often be a little faster. So I think I actually know where that blog post is linked. I think it's actually in our FME Form Basic course. I'll go dig it up when you're doing the exercise, and I'll send it. Is disabling a transformer as good as removing it? Yes. Yeah. Performance-wise, it should be essentially identical. Okay, go ahead and work through that. Try and see if you can change the clipper parameters to be more efficient. Try and see if you can move the tester. Those are the two things I didn't really fully show. You might have to dig around to figure that out. Go ahead and work on that exercise. I'll give you, let's start with 10 minutes, and if we need more, we can do that. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Oh yeah, I'll find that blog post.